And now, it's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning. We've got a lot to discuss today. We're going to talk about how I think the real estate market really is going to change in the next 30 days or so. We're already seeing a lot of change from kind of a market dynamics perspective. We're seeing things slow down. It's not as busy of a summer as we were anticipating it would be. But we also have all of these new rules that are going into effect within the next few weeks. And so I want to talk about how you as a consumer can navigate the real estate market given some of these new changes. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about hiring a buyer agent. We're going to talk about the process that we typically go through now, and then how that's going to change, whether that be you as a buyer saying, hey, I'm interested in buying a new home. I want to go and see what's out there. Well, moving forward, you're going to have an agreement signed with a real estate agent before you can tour properties. So I want to talk about that change and how that's going to impact just the flow of everything, not just from a buyer perspective or an agent perspective, but also from a seller perspective. One challenge that we have and have had for years and years and years are all these folks that go and view listings that aren't really ready to buy a home. And the seller, of course, feels like, hey, I've just cleaned up my house. I've just left the house for an hour. I've packed my kids and my dog in my car. And we've gone and drived around and wasted a bunch of our time only to find out that the buyer that viewed our property is not ready to buy. They're not actually in the market. They were using our home as research. So I want to talk about some of these different things, some of these frustrations that people have throughout the process, and then how that's really going to change. I really want to talk about interviewing buyer agents. We haven't talked about that a lot on the show because, quite frankly, we're a seller-driven show. We talk a lot about the seller side of real estate. Of course, we talk, almost as much about the buyer side of real estate, but really want to dive deep today on better understanding some of these rules and the process of going through a real estate agent to help you buy a home moving forward. Of course, we've also seen all the news lines, whether it be online or on YouTube or, watching the local news, which sometimes does a good job of things, sometimes not so much. But we've also talked about how, finally commissions are negotiable, right? Or finally sellers are no longer required to pay the buyer agent's commission when they sell their house. Well, that's always been the case. It's just that so many agents have done such a bad job of explaining to people what their options are and what their rights are that it resulted in a lawsuit that got settled and then, of course, created all these new changes to how we do business. Most of it, I think, is a fantastic thing. I do think that in some respects it will hurt buyers, maybe in the short term, maybe not so much in the long term, but we're going to talk about that too. So as you can see, a lot to discuss and unpack today. But I want to give you my contact information because I'm, of course, still a practicing real estate agent here in South Carolina. I sell land all over the state. I focus my residential and my land sales really more so in the Tri-County area, though, Charleston metro area. Of course, we do sell land all over the state. We've got a property management company. If you have properties that you own that you'd like for us to manage, that company, by the way, was created for hedge funds. So it's a very price-friendly business plan that is designed to just improve your cash flow as an owner. So whether you're thinking of buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, or you have properties that you'd like for us to manage for you, we have a lot of different options, a lot of different commission options for you. Would love to discuss that with you in greater detail. My phone number, if you want to reach out to me directly, is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or you can check out our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or you can send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. So one of the big changes that's coming due here in the next few weeks is that the National Association of Realtors, which has really encouraged its members to use written agreements, what we call buyer agency agreements, right? It's a contract where you as a buyer hire a real estate agent in return for that agent providing you with client level services, right? There are some things that agents can and cannot do for you if you remain a consumer. And so when you hire a real estate agent, you sign an agreement that's exclusive in nature because, of course, we earn a commission at closing. But this settlement states that MLS participants working with buyers must enter into a written agreement for representation with those buyers before going to view properties, which means that, frankly, the dynamic of shopping for real estate is going to change pretty drastically. I mean, if you really think about it, and of course I do this all day, every day, all right? I've been selling real estate for 20 years. I've sold 1,500 homes, about $1 billion worth of real estate. For as long as I've been in business and for as long as I can remember, the buyer agent or the person that hopes to become your buyer agent is going to offer to show you properties as a way of like kind of dating that agent before you get married through a buyer agency agreement, right? It's, hey, let me show you some properties. Let's see if we work well together. And if that's the case, then we can move to an exclusive relationship. You can sign an agreement. You can hire me as your real estate agent. You also have to think about all these websites that have created these sales funnels, if you will, that you as a consumer have to go through in order to see a property. A perfect example of this is Zillow, right? Zillow costs a fortune for real estate agents to market themselves on, because essentially what you're doing is you're paying for a percentage of the leads that are generated in a specific zip code, right? So different zip codes cost different amounts of money. It's incredibly expensive. And so what happens is these consumers go to Zillow, they see a property they like, they schedule a tour. You're then forced to talk to a Zillow rep that then connects you to an agent, and then that agent shows you the property. Whereas most people, quite frankly, just want to talk to the listing agent. They want to go directly to the person that has the most knowledge on that particular piece of real estate. And so what's been so funny is that over these years, we've all, been trained to basically just get in the door, right? Get the buyer into the door, let them see the house, because that's really what they want. And then at some point, once the relationship kind of matures a little bit, right? And there's some trust there, then you can ask them to be a client of yours, right? You can ask them to sign a buyer agency agreement. Well, again, all that's changing. Okay. So moving forward here in the next few weeks, you will have to sign an agreement with a real estate agent before you can view a home. Now, that agreement can be for that day. It can be for that house specifically, but either way, you need representation from a real estate agent if you want to go and see a home with a real estate agent. You're not obligated to hire a real estate agent, just like you're not obligated to list your home with a real estate agent, right? You can purchase a home on your own, or you can work by yourself as a for sale by owner, right? Those options have always existed, and they do exist. And, at least 10% of all sales out there go unrepresented, right? There is no agent involved in the transaction, or at least on one side of it. And so moving forward, buyers are going to have to really take some time, in my opinion, to make sure that they're talking to an agent that they feel good about working with if they, in fact, like that particular property, right? Because again, if you want help from a real estate agent, you're going to have an agreement signed with that real estate agent in order to go and see properties. So that means you, of course, have to interview them. And what has been, and I think what will probably be the biggest change for people, is the idea that someone interested in going and buying a home now has to interview a real estate agent first. In my opinion, and this is something that I have advocated for time and time and time again over the 11, almost 12 years that I've been on this program, which is that you need to hire an agent. You need to interview an agent. You need to make sure that the person you're working with is equipped to help you save as much money as possible, to make this a seamless transaction for you, to reduce stress, to not just be a good problem solver, but be a good problem finder, right? And that comes with experience. That comes with time. That comes with transactional knowledge. And so when we come back, we're going to talk about this process of interviewing a real estate agent to help you buy a house. Now, I will say, just before we take a quick break, something to be thinking about. If an agent's going to represent you to buy a home and sell a home, right? There's two transactions for one. There are some incentives that should be, in my opinion, baked in for that person that uses an agent for two transactions. A lot of agents don't offer any of these incentives at all. We do. On the Brian Beatty team, I want to make sure you understand what those incentives are. We're talking right now about how the dynamic really is going to change here in the next few weeks for folks that want to buy a house. Traditionally, you've just called up maybe the listing agent, maybe you went online and you made an inquiry and were assigned an agent that was just going to meet you at the house, let you walk around, see if you like it, and then just kind of take it from there, right? Hey, if you like it and you want to make an offer, we can talk about working together as a real estate agent. If you don't like it, I can help you find something else. All of that's going to change. So again, for those of you that are just joining us, one of the new rules that are going into place as a result of the NAR lawsuit settlement that took place a little earlier this year was that moving forward, a buyer must sign an agreement with a real estate agent for representation before viewing a property with that real estate agent or with a real estate agent. In other words, if you want representation, you have to sign an agreement with that agent before you go into somebody's house. And again, that's going to create some shock factor for people because not everybody's, caught up on the issues. A lot of you that are listening might not even know that. You probably don't. But that's one of the big changes that's coming, and it's coming here in the next few weeks. And so, of course, it now, I think, requires you to be knowledgeable in how to properly interview a real estate agent. We've talked a lot on this program about interviewing agents to sell your house, right? And what those characteristics should be of that agent, what they offer, what they do, how they do it, what sort of accountability measures are in place. A lot of those same things are going to apply to the interview that you have with the potential buyer agent you hire to help you purchase a home. But again, you don't have to hire a real estate agent. You can go and you can buy a home on your own without any help from a professional, just like you can do the same thing when you go to sell your house. You can sell it as a for sale by owner. I will say, however, that you will probably save a lot more money, or you can think of it this way. You're going to make a lot more money if you work with a real estate agent that knows this market, that understands the trends and the dynamics within it, that has a ton of experience, a great track record of saving people a lot of money so that they can do the same for you. It's just one of those things where sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. If you haven't been through this process a bunch, or if you don't have a deep-seated knowledge of how the process works, how transactions work, all the opportunities you have to negotiate and save money along the way, then you're going to make some errors, and those errors are going to cost you money. And so that's what we're going to talk about now is interviewing a real estate agent to help you buy a house. Again, a lot of folks have not. I can't even tell you the last time I was, formally interviewed to be somebody's buyer agent. What mostly happens, and statistics prove this, is that the overwhelming majority of the time, the buyer hires the first agent they come into what we call substantive contact, meaning the first time someone has a real discussion with a real estate agent about the real estate market, about looking at homes, what they're looking for, so on and so forth. That agent, more often than not, becomes the agent for that buyer. In other words, there is no interview process. There is no, checks and balances. There were no steps taken on behalf of the buyer to ensure that they were hiring the best real estate agent for their needs at that point in time in the market they're searching in and the time frame that they're searching within. So if you're going to interview an agent, the first thing that I'll say is we've got some great content that we've posted on YouTube. I've been doing the show for almost 12 years. We've got 1,000 videos on YouTube, and there's a ton of content on hiring buyer agents, on what buyer agents can do for you, opportunities in this market right now as it's shifting, because it is, to make some more money as a buyer, to do a better job of negotiating. So I encourage you to go on YouTube, or I've got, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We turned this show into a podcast, which is available on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play. So all that content's out there. If there's something that I say that piques your interest, just know that if you are willing to take a little time, you're going to find the information you're looking for, because we've been talking about it for years and years and years. But anyways, and for those of you that do check out those videos, I do appreciate that, because we're trying to grow our content online. Anyways, if you're going to hire a buyer agent, here are some of the things that I think are incredibly important for you to ask and understand about the agent that you're about to hire. And the first thing that I'll say is that over the course of the past, 10 years or so, real estate teams have become a very popular kind of business tactic within the real estate industry, right? Of course, you have some solo agents that do their own thing, and they're good at what they do, but they're a little bit limited because of time. They don't have support. They don't have systems. They might have systems, but it's for, a one-man show or one-woman show. So it's challenging as a single agent to be everywhere at, every moment in time for everybody that you're representing. Now, maybe that's just a single agent that sells a few homes a year. And then, of course, you should ask yourself the question of, is that the type of agent I really want? If I have the pick of every agent out there, does it really make sense for me to work to buy a, $1 million home with my buddy I work at that has his real estate license and sells part-time? I'm not saying that's the right or wrong answer for you, but it's a question you should be asking yourself. If I'm a buyer in this market, I'm hiring the best I can get, because there are going to be sellers out there that are going to refuse to pay buyer agent commissions, or there are going to be sellers that significantly reduce the amount of commission they're paying a buyer agent, which means that as another change, you might be asked to pay some or all of the buyer agent's commission. So then it really becomes a matter of value. Who's providing the most value to you? So first thing that I would ask, and the reason why I brought up teams and the evolution of teams in this industry is because a lot of real estate agents join teams because they move to the area or they're just getting into real estate and they need a training platform. They need somewhere they can go that will provide them with leads and systems and culture and training and camaraderie and support, all those things. But a good number of those agents are new, either to the industry or new to the area. So if you are interviewing a buyer agent, I think you deserve to have a really good understanding of how long that agent has been selling real estate, how much real estate they have sold specifically, not team numbers, them specifically, because that's who you're going to be working with. Of course, they benefit from all the things that the team has to offer and the collective sales that team has, and then the leads and the systems and some of the cool stuff that you get for working with a team as opposed to maybe an individual. But I think you need to understand how truly experienced that particular agent is on that team and how long they've been in the area. If they just moved here from California and they know next to nothing about the area except for what they went through when they decided to buy a house, which could be a completely different market, by the way, totally different area, totally different price range, different dynamics that come with those areas and price ranges. That's the first question is, are you experienced enough to really be able to help me in this market right now based on all of these sales that you've recently done? I think, of course, you also need to ask if they're full-time or they part-time, right? If I call you, will you answer? If you don't answer, will you call me right back? Are you available on evenings and weekends? And the reality is, even though the market's shifting right now, when good listings hit the market that are well-priced, they're well-marketed, they're in good condition, they're going to sell pretty quickly. There are still a large number of homes that are selling in just a few days. And that's a constant frustration for buyers that are going at this on their own, which is one of the reasons why they consider hiring an agent. One of the biggest frustrations we get is every time they see a property that they're interested in and they get around to finally connecting with a real estate agent to show it to them, it's already under contract or it's already received offers. They're starting behind the eight ball. And what a lot of them don't even realize is that, hey, if you're working with a real estate agent, one of the great things that we can do for you, which is a question you should be asking, by the way, is, are you finding properties for me proactively? Like, are you putting any real effort into going out into the marketplace and trying to find what I'm looking for? Or are you like 98% of the other agents out there that are just going to set me up on some sort of automated search and then say, hey, your search is complete. My job is done until you tell me you want to see a house. Every time a new listing hits the market, you're going to be notified. So if you see something you like, just let me know and I'll go and show it to you. Right? That is the way that so many agents run their business. And for the people that are just not aware of all these other things that real estate agents can do for you, they just accept it. They just think that it's good enough. It's just what the process is. I'm here to tell you that when you work with a real estate agent that's really tapped into the market and that has real systems and people and time and resources to go out into the market and find you something, that's where real value comes in, right? We're talking for sale by owners, people that previously tried selling their home, but it didn't sell. People that maybe bought a few years ago, maybe people that are upside down on their mortgages or behind on payments. Databases, right? We've got this massive database that my team and I communicate with every single day. We've got 27,000 people in there that are real people we talk to about buying, selling, investing in real estate. So maybe there's someone we've talked to recently that has a home like the one you're looking to buy, and we can connect the dots, right? We can play the role of matchmaker. Or if we don't have anybody in our database right now, then we can go out into the market and given everything that's basically trackable about all of us right now, because everything we do online is tracked, right? Everybody knows that at this point. That in combination with just public data, right? Tax information, we can go and very easily, very efficiently, with the way that we've set it up on my team, we can go into the market and we can start calling people that own homes that fit the description of what you're looking for, that are not currently on the market. I think that's what buyers want. Not only do they want access to information immediately, they want access to information that they otherwise couldn't really get without an extreme amount of education and time. So that's a major thing that I think we need to get right off the bat is really how experienced are you? How well do you know the area? How much have you done in the form of transactions recently so that you have an understanding of current market dynamics? And how are you going to find me properties that I can't find myself? Right? Then it becomes, all right, well, let's talk a little bit more about your negotiations. Tell me what your track record looks like. How consistently are you getting good deals for buyers? You know, is there any proof that you can share that kind of explains how good you say you are, right? Where's the data to back it up? And that's one of the big problems in our industry is that it's not policed very well. You know, you could probably go online and look at 100 different real estate based websites for real estate agents locally specifically, and you'll find a bunch of them that say they're number one. You know, maybe number one at selling homes in West Ashley on a Tuesday when it's raining outside. I don't know. But there can only be one number one. I'm not number one. I've been number one in my brokerage, but you know, still selling hundreds of homes provides you with a level of experience, and then it also provides you with a budget. It provides you with manpower and systems and support that all revolve around creating this experience that other individuals or teams either can't or can't do as well. And so when you're interviewing an agent, you have to understand their experience, their level of commitment, how well they know the area, how tuned in they are to market dynamics right now so that you can take advantage of opportunities as a buyer. How are they finding properties for you that you can't find for yourself? And then are there any incentives? You know, if I'm going to sell a home and buy a home, is there anything that I kind of get in return for having one agent do both transactions? So we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to talk about incentives and a few other things on the buyer side. Then we're going to talk about how I think this is ultimately a benefit to sellers. I'll explain that in just a minute. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to reach out to me, you've got some questions about all these changes that are coming up, you're thinking of buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, you've got investments now that you'd like for us to possibly manage for you, then give me a call, 843-800-0065. You can call or text that number, 843-800-0065, or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. I always like to take a moment and just say that I appreciate those of you that listen to this show and rely on the information within it to help kind of shape your understanding of the market and the process so that you're an informed consumer. You understand kind of what's going on in the world of real estate. And I really pride myself, especially on the show, of separating all of the buzz and all of the stuff that's out there that's designed to kind of get, you know, clicks and likes and subscribes. This show is designed to tell you the truth about what's happening in real estate. Okay. So I appreciate those of you that listen. I appreciate those of you that rely on the information within it. I separate fact from fiction here. This is not a show that's designed to have such a shock factor that I'm boosting my, online ratings. I'm just here to deliver a very clear understanding of what's going on in the market right now so that you can take advantage of that information as an informed consumer and get a great deal on something, whether it's buying or selling or both. And so that's what we were just kind of talking about is if you're going to sell a home and buy a home with a real estate agent, especially with all these changes that are coming due, and the fact that commission is such a hot topic right now, I'll tell you this, when a person sells a home and buys a home with us locally, we pay their moving expenses. It's just a way of saying thank you for doing business with us. It makes their lives so much easier because we organize it for them, right? And it's a painful part of the process. Moving is not fun, and no matter how many times you do it and how well you think you've got it down, it's still a pain in the you-know-what. It's still tough. It's still emotional, and that is why residential real estate and commercial real estate, as an example, are so much different from one another because there's so much more emotion wrapped up into residential real estate. But anyways, we're talking about, if we're selling a home and buying another, what are some incentives that you as a consumer can possibly get from a real estate agent? I just told you about our moving incentive, but that's not the only way we kind of say thank you. That could also be something like, well, let's just reduce the commission on one side or the other because we're doing 2 transactions with you. And it's just not, we want to think of it as, hey, it's not just these 2 transactions that we're going to be doing together. The next time you move, I'd still like to work with you. Anyone you know of that's going to move, I'd still like to work with them. And so you work really hard in any business, right, to create clients for life. And so having some of these incentives is incredibly important, in my opinion, because it's our way of giving back, and it's a differentiating factor, quite frankly. Not only do we have just a ton of experience on my team, and as someone that's sold real estate for 20 years and sold about $1 billion worth of real estate, I have the ability to offer incentives. I'm kind of at the evolution in my career where I don't need every penny of every commission in order to stay in this business. So it creates a little bit of somewhat of a competitive, maybe unfair advantage because I can offer things that some other agents are going to really struggle to offer. So we've got the moving incentive. You've got, like when you sell your house with us, as an example, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how much your home is worth, what sort of strategy we should employ, right? Are we listing it at what it's worth? Are we listing it above? Are we listing it slightly below? Tell us a little bit about, tell us about your time frame. What do we need to have accomplished and by when? Let's then create a game plan for that. And then here are the different options you have as it relates to commission and the value associated with it, right? So we have a commission menu. You can pick A, B, or C. Here's what you get with A, B, and C. We've got everything from the low cost option to, the white glove, red carpet treatment where we do all kinds of things outside the box and really go above and beyond to make sure that it's the best transaction it can possibly be. But of course, if we're going to do all those extra things, all those above and beyond things, there's some compensation that has to be adjusted for that. So you as the consumer, I'm hoping that after listening to this program, and for those of you that just listen to it fairly regularly, it's really all about value. What are you getting from that real estate agent to determine whether you should hire them or not? Is it worth it? Is the value there? And so, we've talked about a moving incentive. We've talked about price, or commission-based reductions because of multiple transactions. That goes in line, too, with our communication guarantee, which states that, hey, if at any point in time we don't communicate with you regularly, and let's define what that is. We say at least once per week. For you, might be more, might be a little less. But we're going to sign on that contract, and I'm going to sign that I'm going to communicate with you at that frequency or more, and if I don't, you can fire me. Because that's the number one issue. Aside from everything else that's going on in the world of real estate, the number one issue that people have with real estate agents is that they just don't communicate enough. You, the consumer or the client, are the one that have to reach out to the agent to figure out what's going on with the process, with buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, whatever. Agents are not very good at being proactive. Some of them are great. Some of them are great. Not all of them, of course. But that's the biggest issue that people have is communication, which is why we have that guarantee. We also go one step further and we say that, hey, if at any point in time we're not living up to our expectations, you can fire us. We have an easy exit guarantee. It just helps you understand as a client that we need to continuously earn your business, right? I'm not here to give you a really nice, elaborate listing presentation, get you to sign on the dotted line, and then you're trapped with me for the next 6 months or a year. I want to make sure that I'm walking the walk. I want a really good review after this. Obviously, I want a closing just like you do, right? We all want this to be a win-win scenario. And I would like some referrals. I'd like for the business to grow because I've demonstrated that I'm the type of agent that you want to refer to your family and friends. Anyways, getting slightly off topic here. We were talking about incentives for selling a home and buying a home. There are incredible programs out there that tie into kind of like the home sale contingency process, because maybe you don't have the ability to buy a home and then sell yours, right? You have to sell your home and you have to get that equity out of your home or reduce the payments, right? Eliminate the debt so that you can afford to buy another home. And so there are programs out there where companies will literally buy either your home for cash or they'll buy the home that you want to buy for cash. And then when your home sells, you buy it from the company for a fee. Now, what if that agent helped you with some or all of that fee? Things to think about. There's a lot of different ways that you can skin the cat when it comes to offering incentives to folks, which is why I don't tell folks all the incentives that I have, because of course real estate agents listen to this show and I'm appreciative of that. And of course they understand that, I've got to keep the secret sauce secret. But if you're thinking of making a move, if you're thinking of selling a home and buying another, or just doing a one-off, right? You just need to sell because you're moving to a different area. You're thinking of moving here and you need to buy. You've got a home in a different state that I obviously can't help you with because I'm only licensed in South Carolina. Then let's talk about the process. Let's talk about those incentives, and let's talk about how some of these new changes are really going to impact the process and you, because it's going to be a little, when these new rules go into effect in the next few weeks, it's going to be a little dicey, and it's coming at a time where the market is really plateauing, in my opinion. The numbers haven't quite caught up to the actual trends in the marketplace right now. And I know we talk a lot on this program about, numbers and market dynamics. And I'm a big numbers guy. I follow the market extremely closely. And that's one of the reasons why I'm on this radio show, right? Helping you guys better understand the real estate market. I'm a student of it constantly, and I understand it really well. And so I can follow consumer behavior and trends. And in my discussions with other agents, with agents on my own team, with the ones that are across the country that I've coached or just have great relationships with, we get a pretty clear understanding of the direction of the market. And then, of course, we provide you with the benefit of that knowledge as our client. I will say that and we're going to talk about this when we come back, but just as a little precursor to that, because buyers are now obligated to sign agreements with a real estate agent before they go and view a home with that real estate agent, it should theoretically make things a lot easier for sellers, right? You're not going to get as many showings, and I'm going to expect that to happen. We're going to follow this obviously very closely and report along the way, but I do anticipate the number of showings slowing down over the course of the next several months. We're going to talk more about that when we come back, but if you want to reach out to me, you have some questions about the market, you're thinking of buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, you have a property you'd like for us to manage for you, we're here to help. We'd love to earn your business. Give me a call, 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065, or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. If you're a seller and you want to get your hands on the guide that I wrote, I've talked about it a lot on this program. Thanks to all of you. Gosh, we've sent out already over 100 copies. If you want to get your hands on the most comprehensive home seller guide in Charleston, personally written by me, it's about 50 pages, where I basically poured into it what I know about selling real estate on the seller side. If you want your copy of that, all you have to do is text the word guide to 843-800-0065. Text the word guide to 843-800-0065. I'll ask for your email address and I'll send you over a copy. Thank you so much for joining me today as we've been talking about some of these changes that are going to be due in the next few weeks that I think are going to really change the landscape and the dynamic of real estate for a while until we get used to it. One thing that I'll say is that we've gotten pretty used as real estate agents to changing with the dynamics of the market over the course of the past several years. You got to think we went from, I got licensed in 2006. So I saw the ride up all the way to the crash, all the way to the way down, and then all the way to the way up. And I think that we're plateauing right now. We're at this false precipice right now where there's not a lot of demand on either side of the equation, quite frankly. And there's not a lot of folks out there that want to sell their home. Of course, you're going to have folks that need to sell, that need to buy because it makes more sense than renting. But I think we're left right now with a lot of folks that just need to do something, or they realize that, hey, you know what? This is a good time for us to go ahead and make this transition. You know, I've talked to a lot of sellers recently that feel pretty similarly in that this is probably one of the best times that I can guess to sell my home for the most money before the market shifts. And I think a lot of that is politically driven. A lot of that, of course, is economically driven. A lot of folks are saying that, of course, if interest rates come down, then prices are going to shoot right back up and go through the roof. I don't necessarily think that prices are going to shoot through the roof because we can't, generally speaking, afford it, right? The affordability index in our area is atrocious. Real estate is unaffordable for a lot of people. A lot of people have gotten sidelined and they don't want to buy based on the budget that they now have because they went from looking at maybe a 4-bed, 2.5-bath, 2,500 square foot home with nice features and finishes down to a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot home that needs some work. And that's a real reality for a lot of folks that have been maybe thinking about getting into the market or just haven't taken it too seriously, and they've just watched over time their purchasing power dwindle. So, of course, if interest rates, when they do come down, not if, but it's when they do come down eventually, then that will increase the purchasing power for some buyers, but we'll be in a new kind of dynamic where these new changes will have taken effect. And I think that folks just need to be prepared for the learning curve associated with these new changes. Because if you think about it from the consumer's perspective, in the grand scheme of things, at a very surface level, they call a real estate agent because they see a house that they like. They really don't want to sit down and go through a long, drawn-out conversation with the real estate agent where they then talk about how great they are and how much real estate they've sold and why that particular buyer should hire that agent. It's, hey, I just want to see this house to see if I'm interested in it. I don't know a lot about this area or this neighborhood. I'm curious, right? I'm just doing some research, but I'd really like to get into a house. Well, again, in order to see a house with a real estate agent, you will need a signed agreement. You need to hire that agent. And again, it can be for that property. It can be for a day. You can modify the terms of that agreement to fit whatever it is you want to try and accomplish, really, so long as the agent will go along with it. But one thing that I think is really going to change is the number of showings that we're getting on our listings. Again, the market is already shifting. Showings are down about 30% compared to this time last year. And so because we're seeing less showings and this new rule is about to take effect in the next few weeks, I think we're going to see a pretty decent drop off in the number of showings that sellers are getting for their homes because it's going to eliminate a lot of the buyers that are just out there kind of kicking tires. You really have to understand that real estate agents, one of their big value propositions is their ability to get you into a house, right? To literally open the door, right? They're the gatekeeper. So you go to that agent just to get in the door. And you've probably done this too. There's at least somebody listening to this program that at some point in time has just called an agent to let them into a house. They didn't like the house. They never talked to that agent again, right? I'm not here to say that every time you call a real estate agent or an agent shows you a property that should be the agent that you use in perpetuity. What I'm advocating for is that you, of course, now interview a real estate agent because that's the law and find the right one for you and create agreements that have accountability measures attached to it. Just like if I were going to sell your home, right? There are certain things that I have to do in order to continue to earn your business other than you. Or you can fire me because I give you the right to do that. I set that as the expectation that, hey, I am here to do a fantastic job for you. And if at any point in time you feel like I'm not, and if it's something I can't fix or something we can't talk through, then, you have every right to fire me. Now, just for the sake of discussion and rounding this out, I haven't been fired in a long time. I've fired a few clients because sometimes you just have personality differences and sometimes things just don't work out. But what I do expect to happen, just kind of going back to base here for a second, is I think showings are going to slow down because we're going to eliminate a lot of tire kickers. I think it's going to take a while for buyers to just kind of get over the fact that this is now the way things need to be done. And of course, there's going to be some creativity among real estate agents in order to get that buyer through the front door, probably just an agreement for that address for that day. But I think for sellers, the ones that are on the market that are already seeing showings go down, that are already seeing this kind of lack of demand, they're going to start to wonder toward the second half of this year, or really fourth quarter, where all the buyers are. And the point there is that all of these showings that we track and that we use as this tool to determine, hey, are we getting the number of showings we're supposed to be getting in this area and price range, right? Are we getting the number of showings that other listings that have sold got on average, or are we below that? Are we not getting the amount of traffic we should be getting? Are we getting more than we should be getting? That's a really good sign. What I think is going to happen is that we are going to significantly reduce the quantity of showings that are out there. They will be higher quality, but we're going to have to wait a little bit for that data to become kind of reliable again as listing agents. Because when I sit down with a seller and we go through everything, one of the things I point out is, hey, in this area, in this price range, homes are getting X number of showings per month, and it's taking X number of showings before property goes under contract. So it just gives us a good understanding of kind of where we need to be in the form of activity to give us the warm and fuzzy that, hey, the right buyer's out there and we're positioned well. The traffic clearly shows that. We're just waiting for the right buyer. I think that will change. That will cause a little frustration. And now that you have the understanding of that, you can work through it with your agent. If, of course, you're thinking of selling a home, I would hope to be among those that you interview. And if that's something I can do for you, feel free to give me a call, 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. You can check us out online at listingsincharleston.com or on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Just search the Brian Beatty team. We're out there. Thanks so much for joining us. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065.